In this second episode of our series, we want to talk about how to deduce the subject matter, the title, the theme, the mood, and the tone of a passage. This is very important as a follow-up with our first episode where we discuss the rudiments of understanding a JAMB Comprehension passage generally. Now, understanding the subject matter is also very important, okay, if you are going to understand a JAMB Comprehension passage. This is because the subject matter, the title, the theme, the mood, and the tone collectively help to bring out the writer's central thought. Let's look at what we have here, passage 1 and passage 2, extractions. I want to point something out from these passages. JAMB comprehension passages are full of figurative language, literary expressions. If you look at the first story that we have here, Emeka's hand shook on stage, but one deep breath turned fear into focus. He sang, and the applause proved courage to win. To look at this passage very closely, you would discover the elements that are used in it, okay, are complex. In English, we have what we call literal and literary. Literal is an ordinary expression, or an expression that you can understand from denotative interpretation, that is direct meaning interpretation. But if you look at the second clause that we have in this extraction, it says, but one deep breath turned fear into focus. This second element here is a literary expression. In English, we basically have two types of expressions: literal expressions and literary expressions. So you have to expect that. Especially when you are going to face up with JAMB, you must understand the type of expressions that are possible in English. That is what we have here. Emeka's hand shook on stage. We said that is literal, ordinary expression. So you can just understand that Emeka had a hand which shook while he was on the stage. Fine, no problem, no big deal about that. What about, but one deep breath turned fear into focus. One deep breath turned fear into, that's an ordinary expression. So in JAMB, you should be able to identify expressions that are literal and expressions that are what? Literary. So once you find that an expression is literary, you have to what? Deploy all things you know about literary appreciations. The simile, the metaphor, the irony, the hyperbole, and all of them. Literary expressions are very important in JAMB. So you have to be able to interpret them. So that is that. Okay, that's it. Let us begin. The first element we want to treat here today is the word subject matter. So we're going to ask ourselves the simple question, okay, what is a subject matter? Or how can you identify a subject matter from a given passage? Now, here we go. The subject matter. The subject matter is what a passage is mainly about. Okay? Every passage, every story, every piece of writing, every text, okay, even a text message as little as that, must have what it is about. So when you are served your question paper, the first thing you should what? Bring out is, what is the subject matter of this story? What is this story talking about? Basic. Period. Yeah. Now, subject matter means the same thing as topic. And I'm going to differentiate topic from title in this lesson. In literature, we use subject matter. While in everyday English, we use what? Topic. How can we find out the subject matter of a passage? You can find the subject matter of a passage in the very first sentence of that passage. It is usually embedded in the very first paragraph of the passage. The reason for that is that writers usually state their aim of writing, their purpose of a piece of writing at the very beginning of that write-up. So when you have a passage and you want to identify the subject matter, just make a survey of the first sentence. Very, very simple. So you are going to get what the passage is all about from there. If you are not able to comprehend it, then you can move to the second step that we have here, or the second point here, which is it is usually embedded in repeated ideas or keywords or phrases still in that first paragraph. So when you read the first sentence and you don't seem to get what? The subject matter, proceed to the second sentence and the third sentence. Then make a kind of analysis of the three sentences or four beginning sentences of the passage and try to spot an idea that is being repeated. Try to spot the information that is being what, or the keywords that are being what, repeated, or the phrases that are being repeated along those lines. So within that analysis, you are going to what? Spot the subject matter of what the passage is talking about. That is, you are going to spot what the author is trying to discuss with you, or what the writer is trying to explain to you, or what the passage is trying to pass across to you. So that is how to get what? The subject matter. I think it's quite easy, okay, to understand. Now, let's have some demonstrations. Alright? Now let's come over here. Passage 1. I did say at the beginning of this video that we are going to be using these two passages to illustrate each of the elements: subject matter, title, themes, mood, and words. So, now let's go. Passage 1. A maker's hand shook on stage, but one deep breath turned cheer into focus. That's line 1. So let us apply the first principle. A maker's words. A maker's hand shook on stage, but one deep breath turned cheer into focus. If you don't understand anything from there, you can say turned cheer into what? Focus. So what is that telling us? There's a character named a maker who happens to be on what? On stage, and his hand shook while on what? Stage. And you see fear. That means someone is on stage and was what? Was afraid. Okay? The person lost what? Compartment. So that is what sentence 1 is talking about here. Okay, let's go to sentence 2. It says, he sang, and the applause proved courage could win. You can see the word again here, courage. So that means from the beginning, or the very start, a maker lost what? Courage. So what is this instruction talking about? The passage started by telling us that a maker had stage fright, which is correct, but at the end, by the second sentence, the passage went further to say that he overcame that fear. Okay, so the subject matter of this passage is overcoming stage fright. We move to the second word, passage. Topper's leg ached, lungs burning, yet she ran on. Every step brought her closer to the marathon's finish and her first triumph. Wow, this is another what? Instruction. So what is this talking about? The first sentence is, Topper's leg ached. Topper is a character. She had a leg that ached somewhere. The lungs burning, that is her heart beating heavily. And despite that, what happened? She ran on. So she ran on. What is this sentence we're talking about now? We can see determination from the very first word sentence. That her heart was burning, her legs were what? Shivering. But she did what? She ran on. She still moved. So determination. Let me take that as passage 2. Okay, let me hear. Determination. So determination and perseverance is sports. With that, we now move forward towards the title. The title. The title is a short phrase or a few words that tell you the main focus of the subject matter. Now this is how it works. The subject matter talks about what the entire passage is all about. That is a broad discourse. In other words, you can say a broad field, a broad focus. Then the title is now a specific focus of the passage. So that's what we mean by what? The title. So you are usually going to have subject matter, then followed by what? Title. Okay? We can think of it this way. Let's say that the subject matter is the subject. For example, biology. Subject. Am I correct? Then within that biology, you're going to have a particular focus, or that is a particular what? Point of discourse. So you're going to refer to that one as what? Title. That is the topic. So now, therefore went to the board, okay, with the caption, how to deduce the title. Step 1, identify the subject matter. When you are set to bring out the title of the passage, you have to start with the subject matter. Even if the question doesn't ask you to identify subject matter, maybe the question just goes forward to say identify the title, you would have to get the subject matter first and put it on the table. Then step 2, look for repeated ideas. Then step 3, bring those repeated ideas together and try to paraphrase them or shorten them, because the title is usually very short. Then step 4, ensure that whatever you are going to get is directly connected to the subject matter. So this is how to go about deducing the title of what? Of a passage. Right. Let us try to do that practically from these our 2 extractions. Passage 1. Recall that in our previous analysis, we identified the subject matter of this first passage as what? Now look at it. We identified the subject matter of this passage initially as what? Overcoming stage fright. And our steps in identifying the title of a passage say 1, identify the subject matter. 2, identify repeated concepts or ideas. Then 3, bring the concept or ideas together. Good. So the next thing we want to do is to identify repeated ideas. Overcoming stage fright. Fine. Now, what are the repeated ideas in this passage? Emeka's hand shook on stage, but one deep breath turned fear into what? Focus. Take note of that. Fear turned into focus. He sang, and his applause proved courage could win. Okay? There is a connection between what? Fear and what? Courage. Am I correct? Fear being turned into focus and courage, okay, virtually mean the same thing. So, we are going to say that repeated ideas are, let's go, overcoming stage fright. We have agreed that that is the subject matter, what the passage or instruction is all about. Then, repeated ideas we can find are fear turned into focus, and then what? Courage. So what you're going to do is to analyze or synthesize this information into a single word paraphrase or a single expression. So I'm going to say title. So how are we going to synthesize overcoming stage fright, fear turned into focus, and courage? You can say Emeka's victory on what? On stage. Fine. So we're going to say Emeka's victory on stage. If you don't like that, because you can put it in different ways, provided it captures the concept of what we want you to bring out. You can say, or Emeka finds his what? His voice. Emeka finds his voice. If you don't like that still, we can say Emeka's what? Eventual success. I'm giving you the third one. Good. Emeka's eventual what? Success. So this can be the possible titles, okay, of that extraction. So let's move forward to the second extraction and analyze it the same way. For the second passage, we have as we identified before, that the subject matter is determination and perseverance in sports. And let's look out for any repeated idea within those first few lines. So we are going to say, repeated ideas here are subject matter, determination and perseverance in sports. Repeated ideas. We're trying to figure out some ideas that are repeated. She ran on, okay, is a little bit related to what? Brought closer to the finish. That is to the marathon's finish. So these two ideas are a little bit connected. So if we have to synthesize this idea, so we can say that the title is the victorious champ. So this person was determined, persevered, and pushed, ran on, and got her eventual first triumph. So the victorious triumph. Or the benefits. So we can say the benefit of determination. Because when this fellow pushed on, ran on, at the beginning of the passage, okay, concludes by saying she got her eventual what? She got her eventual what? Triumph. So this passage is about what? The reward, okay, for what? Determination. The benefit of what? Determination. So these are possible titles that we can suggest, okay, for this second passage, passage 2. With this, we'll move on to the third one, which is how to deduce the theme. 3. How to deduce the theme. Now, we are going to ask ourselves a very what? Important question. To begin with, what is theme? Very simple. The theme refers to a message about life that is contained in the story, or that the story implies. And this is what, of course, this is A-level English. In O-level, they used to tell you the moral of the story. The moral. That is what moral is in the story. After they have told you a story, that is what is the life lesson, what is the life message. After they have told you a story, they will usually say that what they are referring to is what? Theme. So it refers to the central idea, or the life lesson, or the moral. Good. Now, what are the steps? Number 1, identify the subject matter. We are back here again. You can see that subject matter is very important. You can't do anything with a passage, okay, with any passage in JAMB. Can't do anything with any passage in JAMB without what? First of all, getting to understand the subject matter of that passage. So, when we're talking about title, we said identify subject matter first. Now we're talking about theme, we are saying what? Identify subject matter first. Now, step 2, identify the conflict or challenge faced by the character. Please, this is very important. In that passage, when you put the subject matter on the table, you now read on to the next line, the next paragraph, and to the end of the story. Try to understand the challenge that the character faced in that story. Try to understand what? The challenge that the character faced in the story. And then mark it and put it on the table. 3. Look out for the way the character responded to the word challenge. Oh my God. Try to get the challenge. Try to get how the character overcame the conflict or the difficulty. The way the character overcame that conflict, or the lesson that the character learned from that word, conflict, is automatically the theme. Every story has a conflict. Any story that does not have a conflict is not what? A good story. It's not a complete story. At the point of resolution of what? Conflict in a story is called climax, or the denouement. It is the point of highest event, or the peak of event in the story. Every story has it. Maybe the writer or the character was confused at the beginning, and then later an idea dropped into his or her head, and she now realized that she was going toward the wrong direction and decided to make a U-turn. That's the conflict. That's the word, the resolution of conflict. Maybe the writer was afraid, like most of the stories we are considering here at the beginning. Then at some point the writer decided to mutter some words. Courage. Then that is the turning point. The turning point in the story. Identify what led to that turning point and how the character responded to the turning point. I think I've tried. I've given you a lot of work breakdown for conflict or for theme. Now let us practically look at the theme in this passage. So here we go. In passage 1, you would recall, in this video, we have explained that the subject matter for the first passage is overcoming stage fright. And we have also explained in this video that the title, okay, of the first passage is Emeka's Eventual Success. We gave about 3 titles, but I picked the third one and the last one. Now, let's ask ourselves, what conflict did Emeka face in this world? In this story? What conflict did Emeka face in this story? The conflict he faced was what? Fear or lack of what? Courage. And how did he overcome it? By what? Facing it headlong. By standing up to his what? His feet. Which automatically brings us to the point that the lesson he learned from there was to not allow his what? His fear to weigh him down or to overcome him. So we would say that the theme therefore is facing challenges leads to eventual success. Passage 2. You would recall as well that we said the subject matter is determination and perseverance in sports. Concerning Tope, good. And we said that the title of the second passage is The Victorious Triumph in sport. The Victorious Triumph. Fine. So, what conflict did Tope face here? So anytime you are asked to identify the theme of the passage, you first of all get the subject matter, then get the conflict that the writer, the character faced in the story. She persevered. So the conflict or the challenge she had was what? Inadequate stamina, if you like. Her legs were what? Were shivering, alright? And then her lungs were burning like she was breathing heavily. Okay, she was losing her stamina for the sport. But she ran on. So that suggests she overcame by patience, by persistence, and by perseverance, and by resilience, if you like. So we would say that the theme is perseverance brings victory, or perseverance brings what? Triumph. So this is how to identify the theme in the passage. So we're going to move forward to the next one, which is what? How to identify the mood and the tone. We're going to treat these two together because they actually go together. How to identify the mood and the word, the tone. Finally, in this video, we want to talk about how to deduce the mood and tone. How to deduce the mood and tone. These two elements are actually tied together, okay, in the analysis of passages or in understanding passages. The reason is that you can use mood to what? To deduce the tone. And you can use the tone to what? Deduce what? Mood. Vice versa. Let me start from tone, although we have it last here. Alright? The tone is described as the writer's attitude towards his subject matter. What did I say the tone is? The attitude of the writer to his or her subject matter. And you detect that from the words used. From what? From the words used. So if you want to understand the tone of a passage, just look out for the sound of the word, the dimension of the words. Are the words soft words? Are the words romantic? Are the words sarcastic? Are they for teasing? Are they for insulting? Are they for anger? So from there you will understand the attitude of what? Of the writer towards the subject matter. If a writer is writing for pleasure, for example, you are not going to expect that writer to be using what? Aggressive words, okay, annoying words, or sarcastic words. So that writer is going to be using soft words, euphemistic words, words that suggest soft meanings, Because it wants to pass a soft message across to you. So whatever choice of words the writer makes, okay, for his or her passage would automatically leave you with a mood. Would automatically leave you with what? A mood. That's all. Very simple. And look at this. The mood is the state of mind or emotional atmosphere that a passage creates in a reader. How the passage makes you feel. How the passage does what? Makes you feel. The tone. The tone is the writer's attitude towards something. I have already explained that, and you can get it from the word. Look at what happens if the writer is using playful words. It will leave you with a light-hearted mood. If the writer is using somber tone, that is gloomy tone. What do I call it? Gloomy tone, that is not happy, but not actually sad. So we call that somber. Not happy, but not actually sad. So that one will leave you in a melancholic mood. Melancholic mood is a mood that's not happy and not sad. You are just like that. Dark tone. This is when the writer is mourning. For example, Zegbezeliza says, by what? Kofi Annan. We say, Zegbezeliza has treated me thoughts. He has led me into the depth of the forest. Going forward is not possible, but returning is what? A great difficulty. The effects of this one is like chameleon physics, into which I have stepped, and when I cling, it does not go. That kind of tone or writer is called what? Dark what? Tone. Mourning, mournful. You can say what? That one is what? Mournful tone. Depressed mood. It will leave you depressed, sad. What about angry tone? This man is what? Protesting. He's annoyed. He's using annoying words. So angry tone, what? Buster mood. Fearful tone. A writer is writing with horror. It leaves you with what? Anxious moods. What about hopeful tone? This is writing for pleasure. Pleasurable writing. The words that the writer is going to use will bring you optimism. So we say optimistic what? Mood. So this is how tones and moods are interconnected. So with this, we come to the end of this video. And of course, this second episode of our series. Join me in the final episode, the third episode, where we shall be discussing how to answer JAMB questions or JAMB method of questioning. That class promises to be rewarding. Catch you there.